Life is a lot like beekeeping. Beekeeping isn't easy, and at times can be downright tough. Sometimes you feel like you're on an island, that you're not making a difference, and that you're on your own. But just remember, the darkest hour is just before dawn. There are those out there shining a light, being the change, and being a lighthouse. You're not alone. There's an incredible community of folks who want to help, who want to lift you up, and want to see you do well. Like the honeybee is to the hive, we're better together. With hard work, if we work together, and with a little help from above, all things are possible. It's not just about keeping bees. It's about being our brother's keeper. Be the lighthouse. Well, hey guys, welcome back to another Stream Team Beekeeping Chat. If you're listening live tonight, the replay later, or the podcast, we want to thank you for spending some time with us. Bruce, Brian, Kamon, how's it going, fellas?
Doing good.
Good.
Kamon, how's things going in your neck of the woods there?
Oh, man, I'm telling you what, fall's my favorite season. We actually just went swimming today. We took a couple hours in between work and took the kids to a lake just about 25 miles down the road. And honestly, I just did it so I could send a picture to Ian Stepler and let him know why we live in Tennessee and why I came back from Canada.
Does he have snow yet? It's like it's any day.
It's either snow or wind. It's just one or the other. But yeah, we're doing good over here. It's good to see you guys again. It's good to see that Roll Tide Red, and Ian's on here. Who the heck
there he is.
Guy? All right. He's here, so I've got my material prepared. And my wife, when I came back from Calgary, said that I picked up a little bit of a Canadian accent for like a day afterwards. And I asked her, was it because I sounded like Ian, or was it just I sounded like a little illiterate, or what was going on there? And no, she just said that I drew my words out a little bit, and I don't know. It was a fun time though. All jokes aside, I was listening to the beginning of the opening. It talked about community, and we really want to see people do better, but not just with bees. We want that a lot, but we also want to see people mentally and spiritually feel uplifted with whatever we do. And so up there at WAS, a lot of like-minded people. Maybe it's just beekeepers, but those Canadians were great. They could just hop down here in Ohio or Alabama or Tennessee, and I think the majority of them just fit right in. Maybe drop the A part, and then nobody would hardly know a thing. Beekeepers are just fun.
How was that conference up there, Kamon? Looked like I saw some photos there. You ran across to some buddies. John Turpin was up there, Tom Nolan, a lot of great folks up that way. How was that conference?
It was a lot of fun. I usually do about 14 to 16. I'm so surprised Kamon got into Canada with the fake passport. I had one of you, huh? Yeah, it was the Mickey Rooney passport that I had, and I was able to get off of that. But no, it was really well ran. Etienne and all the rest of the crew, they had a great team, and that's what it takes to pull one of these things off. It's a ton of work and a ton of little logistics, and it's the little things that will make that go from a conference that runs to a conference that's a lot of fun. And so it was quite a bit of fun. I do about 14, 15, 16 of these a year, and this was definitely one of my favorites this year, definitely in the top 3. It was executed probably maybe the best one I've been to this year. And it was a lot of fun. I learned a ton, and whenever I can go to some place and learn something, that's always my favorite, because just like anybody, I'm in a stage of learning.
That's awesome. Well, tonight, Kamon, we wanted to have you on and maybe learn if there's any new conference updates, but primarily get into some of the maybe 3 main tips for getting ready for winter. No matter what part of the country you're in, it's likely the leaves are falling and you start to get those crisp, cool mornings, and there's dew on the ground. And if you've been beekeeping or just been paying attention long enough, you know what's right around the corner, which is wintertime. Brian, you're Northeast Ohio. You're probably at the moment the furthest northern beekeeper on the screen here.
Yeah.
What's things looking like in your neck of the woods as you get ready for winter?
Man, I tell you, right now, I just finished up yanking all my supers, so I'm looking forward to getting everything all spun out and all the equipment cleaned up so I can pack that stuff away. But like right now, it's key. And I've been preaching this, though. If you look at my last couple videos, I've been preaching probably since beginning of September. Like right now is that critical time where the colonies need to be building up, as far as their winter brood, and just make sure there's no hiccup there and make sure they're getting to weight. And like right now, especially, I ran into a problem the other day, even when I was pulling supers, is they started going at each other. And I've never had it quite as bad as what it was, where they were, I started getting into some robbing. So there's nothing out there. Like it looked almost like we were going to have a bumper crop from the goldenrod that was out there. But I know in Ohio, like where I'm at, we went over like a almost 4-week period. We had 1 inch of rain. So it destroyed everything. Mm-hmm. So, they're so hungry now, and it's just key. I mean, next thing that I'm doing as soon as I get home is dropping feed on everything. That way the colonies get up to weight, making sure that their mite treatments are in check. I did some washes the other day on a couple, and they were above where I want them at, but they weren't crazy high. So, that's another key detail is just, and I think that Kamon says this about, strong queens. What is it? Strong queens, dead mice.
You can't get a saying wrong with him right on the screen, Brian. I mean, come on.
Think about it for a
guys,
second.
I actually have some work to do. I'll talk.
Good night. Well, it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun.
Great queens, dead mites, and good nutrition. But I've kind of been the one that's been people brand as my saying. But I talk to guys like Michael Palmer and other guys, and you'll ask them what are the things that are
that's it,
best for bees, and usually they'll go like, there's got to be great nutrition out there. You've got to keep the mites low, and you've got to have good queens. And, so they'll say it in just a different order. And so I think it's just kind of a fundamental truth in beekeeping in Canada, no matter where you are. And you even if you say it wrong, Brian, just say it confidently, and nobody remembers what I say anyway. So
That's
so
how we
Brian,
say
does it feel like are you getting that sense that winter is right around the corner? Is it closer than you want it to be, or is it too far away for you?
it. No, it is, because today, actually, if you look at our forecast, now I know you'll be a little bit warmer where you're at, but today, at least up in Northeast Ohio, was the last day that's probably going to be above 60 in the next 2 weeks. Our next
Mhm.
2 week forecast
Right.
is 50s. Now, we're not going to dip below freezing just yet, but I mean, it's just pretty much everything is done. So, you got to be on top of the treatments. You got to be on top of feeding them, because they're not, on some of these cold days, they're not going to be out.
There's not a
So,
lot of time left to do all the
no,
things you should have done a month ago, is there?
that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's why, like I've been saying probably since the beginning of September, it's so critical right now. What you do now is going to carry through, and you'll know uh, basically how your September went come March, April.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll
So,
circle back around, Brian, and we'll dig into exactly what you're doing there. I know we just came back. Susan and I just celebrated our 23rd anniversary, and our getaway is actually down in Tennessee. We usually go down to the Smokies somewhere, and this last little trip, we went down there and spent most of our time right around kind of Bryson City, and stayed away from all the Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge crowd for the most part, but just enjoyed hiking around, spending time alone, going for a train ride, just enjoying the beauty out there. And it's actually, when you get up in the mountains part, the mountain areas are nearly identical to they are here at home. When you kind of get down out of the mountains, get down more towards the valley and basin levels, it warms up a bit, and it's a little bit further behind. But one of the coolest things was being up right there on Klingman's Dome, and all the asters were in full bloom. And here I am, like a knucklehead, like just fixated on the bees and looking at them. And all these people are walking by, Klingman's Dome. I'm sure all you do. You walk up, you walk down. People think, is there a bear? Is this guy looking at a bear through the flowers? And this guy's like, what are you looking at? And I said, oh, just these honeybees. And he goes, oh, that's it? And just keeps on walking. He's waiting for his Kodak moment there to get Yogi Bear or something. But it is pretty cool to see bees up there that far up. And believe it or not, and we'll talk more about that later. But the colors of the bees, what they do, your mind goes to, well, who's the closest beekeeper? Are these feral? Why are all these looking like Italian bees and this far up? But anyways, Bruce, down in your neck of the woods, you're probably the furthest south out of all this, the warmest. And then we'll end up with Kamon here in just a second. But Bruce, what does winter look like for you? Like, where are you at in that progress? Are you ready for it, or do you need more time?
Pretty close. Just working on those bees up in Ozark with the the Michael Palmer queens that came in, helped me get a hold of, and also I have some new queens in there from Nature's Image Farm. Just put them in there Saturday, so I'm excited to see how they do too. I haven't checked on them yet. Just put them in there. I did some different types of manipulations with the hives. I had Eric, Spirited Toad, came and helped me last Friday get everything set up. We had a really fun day in the bees, a great day in the bees. And he's just he knows his way around a beehive. He has a hobby bee yard himself. And then he also helps a commercial guy, I guess, down across the line in Florida. He's in Southwest Georgia, and I'm here in Southeast Alabama. And so it was really fun working with him. And I don't know if I think he's on here. Anyway, thanks, Eric, for helping me out. Video's editing the video right now. So hopefully it'll be out in the next few days. And it was a lot of fun. We had a blast, and man, I was impressed with him. He helped me make some tough decisions with queens. He's like, yeah, she's got to go. I'm like, okay, that kind of thing. So he was real good, and we had a great time. But I got 7 queens from you, Greg, and we'll see how they do. They're solstice queens, post solstice queens, and I'm going to try and combine those genetics with the Michael Palmer genetics and some genetics, maybe some descendants of some queens I got from you last year, and we'll just see what we end up with up there in Ozark, and then come and maybe spread out from there. As far as the mites go, we checked the bees up in Ozark, and I had put Apivar in them, and we didn't wash them all. We washed about 3 or 4 colonies, I think, and but didn't see a single mite in any of those colonies. And then down in Slocum, we washed 2 or 3. One of them had been looking really bad when I I put the apivar in there back in August, and it had, I think, 12 mites in the wash, and it had zero or one. I think it had zero. And so we really, whatever we did worked. And then, but I am going to put out I think I'm going to try some formic on some of my bees I didn't treat. I was thinking about harvesting a fall harvest, but I don't think I'm going to do that now. So I don't want to mess up those honey supers that are on there that have some food stores for them. So that's what I'm probably going to do this week. But overall, they're looking probably as good as my bees ever have this time of year. And I've been working more on the feeding and trying to keep the ones fed that need to be fed. And the ones in Ozark they were in trouble, and I fed them and with some Hive Alive supplement, and they seem to be bouncing back and doing well. So I don't know. I'm excited about the upcoming. I was really burned out in August, didn't do much in August, but now I'm getting pumped up and ready to go again. So just talking with a friend about extraction equipment and trying to decide if we want to upgrade a little bit there. So I'm kind of getting fired up about, next year really. And I'm excited about these queens and just kind of starting in Ozark and just moving out from there. Those bees, Eric will tell you, they were so much better than the videos that you've seen of my bees up there over the last few years. He was really pretty impressed. I think we only came across maybe 3 colonies up there that were still feisty, and the ones that were, we replaced the queens in. So, we'll see how it goes.
Awesome.
Well, that's good. Sounds like it's about time for me to come visit you once you get all that straightened out.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, those Michael Palmer queens are just, and in the video you'll see, they're just calm and just ring. It's kind of like Greg. Like some of yours have been in the past as well. Just kind of you ring your hand right across and they just don't even care if you're there. And
that shouldn't be a luxury. I know a lot of folks have calm bees, some have spicy bees, some have the occasional spicy, some have the occasional gentle. But I'm probably speaking out of turn. But for me, having bees that are workable, that are gentle, that are semi, you can have an idea of what they're going to do, predictable. That shouldn't be a luxury. But I think as more folks take queen rearing and start with good genetics and develop what they have in their local area and keep them moving forward, I think more folks hopefully get to bees that are a little bit more pleasant. But maybe that's just a luxury. I don't know.
It'll be an interesting thing down here because people down here are used to the bees being a little more, I do think, defensive, but also super productive. And I think they have a heavy Italian influence a lot of times because the bees down here don't brood down a whole lot in the wintertime, partially because of the weather, but partially they just don't. So a lot of them don't. And so I'm kind of excited to see how these do. Kamon, I think the Michael Palmer queens are Carniolan Italian cross. Kind of, is that what he tries to do? I know they're kind of a mutt, kind of what he likes, but what is their actual genetics? Do you know?
I'm not 100% certain. I know Carney behavioral traits is the primary one, but I'm pretty sure that there's lines that go back to some of the older Buckfast and various things in there, and there could be some Russian and I'm sure some Italian in there as well. I'm not 100% sure.
What do they do in the wintertime? Do they brood way back, or do they stay pretty strong in the wintertime?
Oh, they brood way back. That's one of the reasons why I like those type of bees, is that they'll shut down in late November, December here, where I won't ever get that with the Italians.
Awesome. Well, I think that's going to be a good combination then with Greg's, because Greg's do a similar thing. So it's going to be interesting to see what that Ozark yard looks like.
Heading in the right direction, it sounds like, for sure.
I will say some of those queens, the brood is a little spotty, but I think it's because I just put them in a really tough time. Late July here, it was just brutal this year, and they almost starved. I had to get some food on them after I didn't get in them for a few weeks, and so they're looking much better now that I've been feeding them, and kind of now that we got a little fall flow maybe kicking in, they're looking a little better now. But
well, I'm sure we'll get into some of the tips and tricks and all that before we go full tilt beekeeping chat. Kamon, are you, well, ready or not, winter's coming, but sometimes you get a little hint and glimpse that it's coming, and you're at that point, you're either you can't get here fast enough, or you're like, can you just give me a little bit longer? Where are you at right now? Not outside of the conference, outside of family, outside of the garden. When it comes to bees, are you ready for winter, or do you need a little bit more time?
I need a little bit more time. No comment. after that. No, we need to just get through more of the colonies. I have some bees that are quite heavy. I mean, they don't need any feed at all. And it wasn't all the fall flow. We still have a tiny bit trickling in, but it's really not a lot of nectar. It's mostly pollens. But they're iffy pollens. Here's one tip. Don't trust a fall flow. You might live in one of the rare areas that you have a fall flow every year, but most areas, especially Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, and the South, and it sounds like up your way, Greg and Brian, you just can't really trust it a lot. It's really fickle, and part of the reason it's so fickle is it's typically drier. It's also gone through a period of stress in the summertime, and then if it's dry on top of that, and oh, by the way, we only have a handful of producers in the fall versus spring, where most of us have 10 times what we have in the fall as far as diversity that we know of, and then there's a ton of stuff that's happening that we don't even know of. And so it's just a totally different time of the year. And so nutritionally, I want to get in there, and maybe I'm not feeding sugar syrup. Some of these bees definitely don't need a drop, but I do want to throw a pollen patty in there, if I can finagle it carefully around the small honey beetles and make sure that winter cluster is going to be nice and fat.
Right. Yeah, Kamon, I don't know if you can do anything about it, but it sounds like folks are saying your mic sounds quiet or low.
I hate technology. I mean, I got this
That's
thing.
better.
There
Is
it
that
goes.
better right
now.
there?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
better right now already. Yep.
There's two settings for this. Somehow it must have got switched off. One of them's supposed to be a little bit more broad. One of them's really close. So is that better, everybody? I can just talk
Look at
right
that.
into the mic.
That's
All right,
perfect.
broadcast quality. Look at that.
And no. All
Well,
right,
Kamon,
the
before
Three
we get
Stooges.
full on with winter beekeeping tips, I'm going to thank Brown and Daughters Honey. Hey, everyone. What are everyone's thoughts on overwintering singles and doubles? We don't get too cold here, but we'll stay active in the winter, seem to consume a good bit of honey. Brown and Daughters, we've got your question starred, and we will certainly get to that. But I wanted to thank you for that super chat.
And that's Connor over in Israel, so that's pretty neat. It's
That's
probably
pretty-
early.
that is
Too,
really
it's
cool.
probably 2 or 3 a.m.
Yeah.
over there. So
That's
he-
awesome.
it's awesome that he stays awake, or he wakes up to. Usually he comes in on the first part of these chats. I don't know if he stays up for the whole thing, but it's pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, Kamon, before we cut loose into winter beekeeping tips, tell us what's new with the North American Honeybee Expo.
Well, a couple different odds and ends. Got some good updates. And first of all, for those who don't want to go through the whole rigmarole of calling it the North American Honeybee Expo, they can just call it the Bee Expo. That's what a lot of us are calling it to each other, because ain't nobody got time for that. So it's just the Bee Expo.
That's a big wide T-shirt too. For someone like me, it's all
Well,
right.
I mean, Randy.
Me and
McCaffrey
Randy
might
would be
able to pull
okay.
it off. Yeah. I can't do it. Some of us are calling it Laurel's Conference. It's whatever you want to call it. But so we have a few odds and ends. First of all, the kid program was just finished up for this year, and so we have 30 young men and women between the ages of 11 and I believe it was 20 who are coming to the conference. And I was really excited with the young men and women last time, but also this time. Just several of them, you can just tell they just love bees at a young age, and they're really interested in getting even better at it, and some of them are already quite good, especially for their age. And so really excited by the 30 young men and women. And I haven't posted their information. We're still in the process of getting permission for certain things, and some of the parents might not want their names blasted all over the place. And so I haven't posted that yet, but some of them have chosen in our Facebook group to go ahead and say they're excited about coming. So that's super exciting to me, because I started when I was 14, and little did I know that would impact the whole direction of my career and adult life. And it also helped me land Laurel. So, I mean, wow, those bees have been pretty darn good for me, right? And then also guys like Blake Shook, he owns the Bee Supply and Commercial Bee Supply. If anyone's seen my new commercial bee feeding rig that came from Commercial Bee Supply, Blake started, I think, when he was 12 or 11, something like that. And so I just think it's super important to get these young men and women involved at a young age and get them excited and exposed. So that's always one of my highlights of the year, is getting to see the next wave of maybe tomorrow's president of a local bee club, or maybe someone speaking at the Bee Expo, or maybe someone who's so tenacious they put me out of business. You never know. So, but so that's pretty exciting. We have, if the conference was held tonight, there'd be 2,600 people there.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
It's going to be... Okay, that freaked me out there. All right. Whew. Be still my heart. We have a bunch of folks coming, and it's really exciting because we have a lot of Canadians coming down. When I went up there to Calgary, there was a ton of Canadians who were coming or who are thinking of coming, and we have a lot of Canadian companies. We landed a couple while we were up there, and so I think we're up to double digits now on Canadian companies. It's 10 or 11.
Wow.
So I'll have to double check that one. And we landed another New Zealand company, so I'm pretty excited about that. We've added, last year, we have 30 more than we had last year. I'm up to 121. And so we have 121 vendors, but it's not just the number of vendors that are increased. There's a lot of vendors who are doing a lot more. I think the biggest vendors that we had last year, most of them have either gone 30% bigger to 100% bigger on average, somewhere in that range. So the booths are going to be a lot bigger. We have a lot more room to finagle and make it more comfortable. And Jennifer Porter asks, are tickets still available? Yes, they are. And so they will be open for a good while yet. I'm trying to sweet talk Laurel into letting me go past the numbers a good bit. Thanks for posting that. It's like it starts at like 2,500, and then next thing it's like 3,000 is not that bad, baby. What's another 500 at this point? And 3,500 has a nice ring to it. So
Wow.
we'll see where we land. It could be 3,000. It could be 2,800 by the time everything settles out. I really don't know.
It's one of those things, Kamon, where if you build it and put together, the people come, and that's one of the most impressive things. Is without going down the back roads here of how we got from the prior conferences to here, it is absolutely amazing that you've grown so much. A lot of folks, if you're paying attention to your state conferences and things like that, there a lot of them are struggling. A lot of them can't get people to come. A lot of them are still doing it differently. They're doing it the old way, which isn't necessarily a bad way, but when the folks vote with their wallet and they're showing up literally in droves all across the country in Canada to come to a conference, 2,600, 2,800 tickets sold. I mean, that is absolutely impressive. And I think a lot of state conferences, they've got to be put on notice that this is what people want. This is where people are spending their money. They are voting with their wallets. So it's either get on board or get left behind. And that's the sad truth. So I really appreciate what you're doing and really excited to see the growth of the Bee Expo, or whatever you decide to call it next year.
Yeah, we just never know. We like to keep people on their toes and all that kind of stuff. And I've been grinning. Probably people have noticed the comments over there. There's several good ones. Of course, Tennessee Tim says that I've talked the microphone to death. That's so not nice, but it's hilarious. Then as far as some people are calling it the Kentucky Fried Conference, which I think is great. And one of the things I will say, and I was talking to some of the Canadians about this when I went up there, but the food was a lot leaner in portions and in type of food than what I'm used to. So Ian's saying 2,800 tickets. It must be all that dust from the fill getting in his ears. Did I say 2,800?
Nope.
I didn't. I thought I said 2,600. Yeah, okay. He was trying to confuse me. I can't remember what I said. I have to be careful. However, they eat a little bit leaner up there, and the food was good. Now, the Canadians I talked to said if you go to the country, it's a little bit different. Calgary's a little bit more ritzy, that kind of stuff, which means you pay more for less food. That's not how we speak here in Tennessee at all. Food in mass quantities, artery clogging types if we can get it. And so the first thing we did when I landed back into Nashville is I went and got fried chicken. I kid you not. I mean,
Have to get back on track somehow.
got to get back on track. You know, my body's used to having that type of artery condition. So, all jokes aside, Kamon for president. Whew, I would get shot for sure. So somebody needs to. But anyways, back to the vendors. They're going to be quite awesome. There's 121. I don't know how many more we're going to add. We do have a little bit more room. However, what we're interested in is unique stuff at this point, and we have a ton more unique stuff than we had in past years. We've added a lot of New Zealand, Australian, Canadian, Hungarian, European companies that have quite different machines than we have, different systems, different styles of hives, and that's going to be really exciting. Some of it's not going to be for the majority of American beekeeping, but I'm super excited to see how they do it over there, and I'm hoping that we increase our presence globally just so we can be exposed to some of these old cultures, because even though I'm really, really, really proud to be an American and like American stuff, you can learn a lot from beekeepers in Europe and Israel, and they're so steeped over there. It really goes almost beyond just a career and a hobby. It's for a lot of folks over there, it's religious, and it's been going on for a couple thousand years or more. You know, so pretty serious stuff.
They've got quite a head start on us, don't they? The folks that are European beekeepers, I mean, they're a little more in tune with it, I think, than we are to some extent. They are. You know, one of the things that just blew me away is how big of honey yields you can get in parts of Canada up there. I'm talking about, you know, they wanted me to talk about my operation. I can only talk about what I know, right? And so for us, if we can average 100 pounds per colony over a 10-year period, we're dialed in, baby. I mean, we can do that here, but you have to be dialed in. Great queens, dead mites, good nutrition, and plenty of comb and no swarming. That's the 5. There's 2 extra secret keys right there. Oh, I heard that. That's a new T-shirt.
Yeah, new T-shirt. It's gonna be extra large. So when it comes to my expectations, I go up there and so our goal is to get around 100 pounds per hive and to be able to sell a nucleus colony, and then you can hear the murmurings in the crowd of only 100 pounds of honey? Is that American pounds? What was he talking about there? And so,
how does that translate?
That's right. So, no, there's parts of Alberta where they're getting, if they have a good year, 200 pounds of honey, 180 pounds of honey, and 100 pounds of honey is that's that was a little bit of a letdown. Bummer.
Wow,
So,
isn't that crazy to think about that?
It is. So, I was talking to the Australians. They're Hive IQ. We've worked with them, and they have the polystyrene equipment. And they were talking about how they move from, yard to yard, and how you can make, a barrel of honey, a hive in a really good year if you're dialed in, moving bees around. I can't imagine.
But imagine that.
Well, so over in Australia, bees like that aren't native, and they weren't native here, but the flowers coexisted with the marsupials and stuff, and so the nectar is produced in really large quantities in these big flowers for these mammals or marsupials or whatever to go down there and pollinate that way, and so it's these copious amounts, and so it's a totally different thing, and they're really upset about the whole Varroa situation. So anyways, back on track, and me, I guess I derail my own talks, but so we do have the honey swap still going. I just wanted to say quickly, for those who get confused, that you can bring whatever you want. If you want to swap a gallon of honey with someone that has 2-ounce jars, knock yourself out. However, we had to figure out a size that would be as easy as possible. So the honey swap will be happening, and it's just beekeepers swapping honey with other beekeepers. You can either carry it around and swap it yourself, or you can bring it to the Honeybee Tennessee booth, and they will store it for you, and then they will swap it with a bunch of random other ones. So if you have 20 jars, they'll find some really unique set of 20 jars, and they'll swap it. And
That's
then
cool.
you can come back at a later time. And so you don't have to spend a lot of time carrying that around. And, you know, so they try to really mix match. So if you're from Kentucky, you're not ending up getting like 5 other jars from Kentucky, you know. They might give you, you know, one from Washington, one from Kansas, maybe one of Greg Burns' jar of honeys if he actually does it this year. And, you know, so no pressure, Greg. People are going to be disappointed if you don't have some now in the honey swap. Well, honestly, vendors could participate. Guys like you all, if you all did that, people could walk up and swap with you there. So we're recommending half-pound jars or the 2-ounce bears. So this is a little 2-ounce bear. These are easy to put in a shirt pocket or whatever. And just, hey, you know, you talk with somebody, you really like that person. They end up wanting to swap too, and then boom, it's just a quick transaction of some liquid gold from one place to the other. And, you know, so you don't have to stick to those sizes. If you have 3-ounce glass jars and you want to swap with a 2-ounce, if you bring a pound jar and you want to swap with a half-pound, you know, the more uniform the sizes are, the easier it is for everybody. So that's why we suggest those. But you can use glass, plastic. Just please don't drop the glass jars. It's going to happen. We know it is, but just try not to, please. I hate making Jeremy Lindsay have to clean that up and get a mop out. So, do you guys know Jeremy? He was probably
He's a great guy.
Whizzing.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
No, he's a good dude for sure. Lindsay Homestead.
Yeah,
is what his money's labeled. Yep.
He comments a lot in here from time to time, and so he's one of the Tennessee guys down here. He's got some long legs, and he's going to need them. He logged 40 miles in the 3 days of last conference that we ran. 40 miles on his Fitbit.
Oh my gosh.
His shoes were smoking. Yeah. So
he's the kind of guy you need in your corner at those kind of events, because it seems like the guy is just to make it happen. Point, and he just goes, figures it out, makes it happen, puts the fire out.
Oh, there's a ton of people like that. It takes so many people to run an event like this. It's not even funny. There's different branches of management, and I imagine there's probably going to be 12 management positions this year with the scale of this conference. And so Laurel's at the top, of course, and you know sometimes I feel like I'm a close second, but not really. and then it kind of goes down from there. So it's going to be a lot of fun. The vendor deals, I know a lot of people don't use Facebook, and so that's all right. We are going to be posting more stuff to the website. It just takes a while because the vendors can post straight to the Facebook group, but then we have to get in a different format and we have to upload it to the website. And so we will be announcing that soon, but the vendor deals are very stellar, and we're not even halfway done. You know, Greg, you and I were talking about some stuff, and you know, we need to have you know, some Nature's Image Farm hats or something like that.
We're gonna have to do something. One thing that we are going to do is we're working on getting all of our pricing, and you know, there are so many vendors out there. We're trying to there's a lot of products out there, but what I can appreciate is, you know, we're going to stay in our lane on what we're known for, what we've done for years. For years now, we've brought wax dip boxes, bucket feeders, plugs, some other wax dipped equipment, and that's kind of the lane that we're going to stay in again this year. So we're excited. We've got we'll have a couple of different rollouts of pricing, but our website is updated. You don't need discount codes. You don't have to do anything like that. Just go right to the website at naturesimagefarm.com. At the very top, you can click we're just putting the long NAHBE, just NA, you just at the top, you'll see it. Click here. If you know what NAHBE E means, then you're in the right place. If you don't know what that means, you shouldn't be clicking there anyways, because you're going to buy stuff, and then where are you going to pick it up at? But if you go to our website, we've got our conference specials. Brian, I think we've got, can you pull up that, we'll kind of debut the flyer here. We're excited to be once again providing premium wax dipped equipment at the Bee Expo. This year we're focusing on 10 frame and 8 frame wax dip boxes, both deep and medium. We've got some really great prices. These are going to be our finger joint boxes. Great quality box. at a great price. And what we're also trying to do is, if you're investing in the box, we also want you to be able to take advantage on pricing of frames. And so we've collaborated for years now with Premier Bee products. We're a big fan of Premier's Puracell, Pura Hive, Pura Frame, their entire line, and also the mystery Propola. What's that, Kamon? It's a secret. Maybe they'll unveil it at the big show.
Well, I've heard rumors. I can't, say that I have or deny it. I just don't know. That sounded terrible. So yeah, they're going to actually release it at the conference. So it's going to be really awesome. And thankfully, we have a few different companies releasing several things. What this has turned into, and I can't really overstate this. It's even the folks who aren't able to come, who either follow your YouTube channel, follow mine. They are part of what has made this conference happen, and it is doing a lot for the industry. So some people are just like, well, we're going to listen to some lectures. We're going to listen, and see what the vendors have to offer. We're going to do a few things here or there, but it goes way beyond that. This is totally affecting innovation in beekeeping. I mean, there's no joke. There are companies who spend 365 days thinking, what are we going to launch at the next one? And then they see what the other company did last year, and they're trying to figure out how to one-up it, because as much as I'm more of an old-fashioned guy, I like smokers, hive tools. YouTube has its purposes, but one thing that it does well is it's so fast. People see a vendor post on Facebook and it's their competition. They see us do something on YouTube, and all of a sudden it really gets them a little anxious to go out there and innovate. And especially when you comment on it. So when, let's say Billy Bob is selling a new vaporizer, or he's selling a new type of whatever, and that gets 50 to 100 comments and a lot of interaction. The other companies see that, and it really makes them sweat a little bit. And so that all to say, the companies are really starting to innovate more, and we're bringing in more companies all the time. And so it's totally a battle. And there are some companies that do not like each other. I don't share the drama with everybody, because this conference is about having fun. It's about learning. It's about excitement. But trust me, there is some competitive behavior going on. And we just want to set up like a ring and just have like someone, just ding, just do pay-per-view and just have like one company go against the other and see who can wrestle it out.
That's a good point. When you get that many vendors together, I mean, it's bound to get a little competitive, to say the least. But I think what's interesting about YouTube, podcasts, and those kind of platforms is, while there may be 8 places to buy the same frame or the same hive tool or this or that, a lot of folks are choosing to support folks for the work that they're doing in and outside of beekeeping too. And that's a big deal. Folks are showing up and voting with their wallets. While you might get folks in there that decide, this year we're going to have this product and we're going to have it at the cutthroat price and just tick everybody off, that's fine. But sometimes it doesn't work out so well. The main thing is folks are voting with their wallet. Folks, and that's a really important thing, is they are supporting not only the vendors, but any of the content creators, influencers that they see. That's a big deal, because that helps all of us keep going and push forward. We're really excited this year because our booth is growing and growing and growing. But it's going to be a lot of fun, because we're going to have the stream team live, just like we had here at the Creator Convergence here at the farm. It's going to be set up where it's lights, action, camera, microphones, taking interviews, sitting down with folks, capturing all that video. If we can get an internet signal where we'll go live several times from the event too, to just share this beautiful feeling of community that not a lot of folks get. You have to be there to fully get it, but it's also fun to be able to share just a little glimpse, not like a nanny boo-boo, here's what you missed, but man, look at this. This is what's going on. You really try to get here next year. Now, the community aspect of it is, truth be told, is one of my, is personally for me, is one of the favorite things. There's so many folks that we see year after year. You build friendships. Some of them you even get to visit with, break bread, have share a meal at their family table. It's more than just about beekeeping. It's about being our brother's keeper. Bees are the conduit to the people, and I think that's where the conferences that you put on, Kamon, that's where the heart of it is. That's where the heart of these people are, and I think that's why no matter what you call it, wherever it goes, that kind of a conference will always be successful. So it's going to be a lot of fun to have the stream team wrapped up into the Nature's Image Farm booth again. And one little fun thing we're going to do too is we're going to have our regular coffee mugs. Usually it has that on both sides, but we're going to have the Be the Lighthouse Nature's Image logo. On the other side, it's going to have the stream team logo, and we're going to give a free coffee cup away for every purchase too. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So if you're looking for a cool coffee cup, you can get one just by making a purchase at the booth. Come say hi to Brian, hi to Bruce, all the folks. I'm sure you name them, they'll be there. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, are we allowed to bring well, actually, hold on, Kamon. You're doing this to yourself? What the heck? I was fixing to say, are we allowed to bring cream pies to or just like a banana pie or something like that?
Yes.
Just, throw right in Greg's face, just go on by. But then I was
There'll
thinking,
be lots of that.
That's really counterproductive for my team. Scratch that I said that. See,
Jeremy Lindsay, how do you feel about clean up on aisle Nature's Image? I don't know if he's going to be a big fan of that.
Well, this is the hardest part about running one of these. I'm a rebel by nature, and you have to be very organized, and you have to have rules and stuff, because there's always going to be something off the wall happen that you just don't know what it is, and so you're going to have to plan for it.
Kamon, I was just going to ask you if emotional support birds are allowed at the conference.
Oh no!
Yeah, as
Ryan,
long
you're
as
going to
they're
get Yappy in trouble again.
Yeah, as long as they're fried, boiled, or fricasseed, they are allowed. Yeah.
Did you say fricasseed?
Yeah.
What's
what
fricasseed?
that is.
You guys have never watched Looney Tunes, have you? All right. We'll educate you later on that. Yeah, fricassee. Somebody help me out here. But anyhow, there's several interesting comments. I'm going to grab one real quick. This is from the Dominican beekeeper. Kamon, what happened to Gus? I miss his videos. So Gus has gotten really busy, some family stuff, and his bee operation. He's a one-man show, and it's a lot. Some people think that you make a lot of money off of YouTube, and there are people out in the world that do, but beekeeping is just such a small demographic. It doesn't even come close to paying a full-time income, and that's doing it at the level I was doing it, like 3 videos a week, and it's still not even close to a full-time income. Like what I was making truck driving 8 years ago, I can't keep track. I wasn't even making a third of that. And now truck drivers are making like 20% more than what I was making 8 years ago. Yeah. So if that tells you anything. And so Gus is running a full-time bee business. He's got family stuff going on. His son's, I think, fixing to go into college. And so there's just a lot of dynamics. And the problem with YouTube is it doesn't pay much, but on top of that, you're exposed to so much negativity. There's so much positivity too. But I'm even seeing guys like Bob Benny get, just chewed out by some nut. Right. And, if Bob can get chewed out, well, the rest of us are in trouble. We're going to get chewed out a lot. And I've seen it happen to you guys. It's just part of putting yourself out there. And so some people don't want to deal with that, especially if they're not making a lot.
Look at that. This is beautiful. It's a dish of stewed or fried pieces of meat served in a thick white sauce. I mean, I'm all about the gravy. Is this like sausage
Apiaries gravy? Obviously is a person of culture.
Obviously. Very well-rounded person of culture. Thanks for bringing it, Garrison.
It probably means you watch Looney Tunes like I did. So I go over to my great-grandparents' house and watch all the reruns of Looney Tunes, and, that's just what we did. And so if people wonder why I turned out the way that I did, first of all, there's a lot of verbal warfare in my family. You go to Thanksgiving, if someone's not picking on you, they are genuinely upset with you. So It was that way from the time you walked in. You were ready for verbal warfare, and then we were watching Looney Tunes. We were watching the Three Stooges and the Little Rascals, and people wonder why I turned out to be such an odd duck. You know, here I am. So then when it comes to, a lot of keyboard warriors, and you got to ignore them. It's just part of it.
Yep.
And, don't let the few negative people get in the way of all the awesome community of people that we have. Whenever I get stressed out with running the expo, or, I deal with a negative vendor, or I deal with a negative comment on YouTube, or someone just saying, Kamon's doing this just to get rich and take advantage of the beekeeping community. And I'll get this from people who I don't know, from sometimes people that I do know who just want to stab me in the back for whatever reason. And you got to focus on the people that have followed us the whole way here. I started with the channel with no subscribers, and people have supported me the whole way through. And, without them, none of this would exist. And because of this, we are affecting the whole beekeeping community. There are a lot of big companies sweating over the transition of the industry. Jose says smile and wave. Speaking of Jose, he's going to be one of our speakers there this year. So we're really looking forward to seeing Jose again. And, he's just the type of person that we want at our conference, because those family values, obviously the beekeeping education, and just the, the positivity, and,
fried
Jose,
okra. He likes the fried okra.
And he's
he's the
smiling
guy
all the time, So that's what we want. Real quick, while we're talking about Jose, so we got several speakers. Some of them, you can go to the website and you can see them, but we have some new ones like Dr. Larry Connor. He's written a lot of the books
nice.
that I really like. And
essentials.
then, so some of you may have noticed that Lawrence Edwards will be coming from the United Kingdom. Today, we've got some really good information, awesome information on oxalic acid research. I promised I wouldn't talk anything about it more than that, but it's really promising. It's done really good, and that information is going to be presented at the expo.
Nice.
And so Cameron Jack will be there, and another guy will be talking on oxalic acid and the future of it and how it'll help our bees. We're bringing Phoebe Snyder, who, for those of you who don't know about the UBO, the unhealthy brood odor, that's helping commercial beekeepers and smaller beekeepers be able to determine which colonies are more hygienic so that they can breed better bees. And she's going to be not only talking about how to do that, but also is going to have some kits at the conference, it sounds like, to be able to show people how to use them and be able to do testing and breed for better bees that are more thrifty and clean. So Marla Spivak's going to be there. She's been on there a while, but I'm super excited about the cutting edge stuff she's going to be talking about on propolis research. And then one of our, the legends, Natalie Summers.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really hard to land this one. Quite expensive.
How did you land that? What did it take?
Lots of begging. And yes, but no, Natalie is gonna be doing an awesome job. Again, I've been with her at other places where she's spoke before, and has always done really good. But I finally convinced her to give me a shot. This is my one chance. I can't mess it up. But no, I actually was talking about her in Canada because I was asked about YouTube channels and which ones were good and various things, and so I plugged Natalie, because as far as girls go on YouTube, she's probably the best, that I'm aware of. If not, she's really darn close. So, and she's 21 years younger than me. So gosh, what a lot of time she has to kick a lot of rear end. And we landed we have two new speakers that sounds like we'll be signing on, which is Megan Milbreath out of the University of, I believe it's Michigan. Maybe don't quote me on that one. and she's going to be talking about some really cool overwintering stuff that when I heard it, I was like, I really want this at the conference. It was really bizarre on shaping my mind on overwintering bees. And then, Greg Rogers.
Oh,
So,
nice.
Yeah, we've never had him before. And so we're really looking forward to having Greg Rogers on his professional operation there. So whether you're interested in hobby level talks, we're going to have 3 rooms going. And so if you come, you can listen to someone talking about, commercial queen rearing. You can listen to entry level stuff on how to make rudimentary basic splits. And we're going to sometimes I can say it, rudimentary.
Oh, you got the foghorn leghorn going there.
Well, I say, boy. And see, I told you Looney Tunes, right? And classics. I'm watching it with my kids to make sure that they're raised properly. And a lot of times I'll fall asleep with the kids, and they'll be in my lap, and they're all shaking me like, "You did it again. Pick up those kids and throw them in bed." But all the videos are going to be recorded. So if you're only wanting to get maybe entry-level stuff this year, you're a first-year beekeeper, or maybe you're a Bob Benny groupie and you're just following every talk that he gives, and so you miss, Randy McCaffrey. It'll be recorded. Everyone who gets a ticket gets the whole recordings.
That's
Wow,
awesome.
that's great.
That's going to be like 30-something, 34, 36 lectures, depending on the format this year, but it's going to be a lot. And
Well, not just lectures,
really good.
because there's those other conferences that may have speakers, and not to discount what they're doing or the caliber of speaker or presenter, but the type of people that you have here presenting are top notch. They're bringing a lot to the table with not only research, but experience and wisdom. Imagine having all access to all those videos 10 years ago, having all those talks. I mean, can you imagine what that's actually going to do for a lot of the up and coming folks who are looking for the right information at the right time? I mean, that's a big deal. That's huge.
It is, and we are wanting to make sure that what people get from these courses and what they miss whenever they come to our conference, we really want to feel like they have good value. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn. It's just we try. I'm one of those guys. I'm willing to pay $1,000 to you if I get $1,000 in value. It's fair trade. I think what has made a lot of Americans and people in general upset is it feels like a lot of times we're paying $1,000 getting $600 in value, or maybe $1,000, but we're getting like zero worth of effort and service. And so we realize this is a big time, bit of time that people put towards this and money, but we really appreciate guys like you all who bring a lot of fun to it, which to me is the best part, is having the fun, the laughter, but also the deals. Those wax dip boxes are going to be awesome. I stole one from you last time, Greg. I still have it. And so I used it for the questions, and I took a box from you so in one of the room B they could put their questions into it, and I told you I'd get it back to you, and I haven't told you a lie. It's going to happen. It's just going to be in January.
Better late than never. Better late than never.
100%. It's a good wax dip box. And the only problem was it was an 8-framer instead of a 10. I don't have anything to go with it, so I couldn't use it. So it's in prime condition still.
There's going to be some fun boxes this year. Can't say too much, but there's going to be a lot of fun stuff that's going to happen at this conference this year. So it's wax dip boxes that we're known for.
Oh, there you are, Greg. You just kind of we got the gist, but we knew you were starting to think really hard, and it was just we weren't sure if your brain could keep up.
It just
froze.
Yeah,
it's it was a glitch in the matrix.
So, anyways, I think that wraps up mostly everything I have for the conference. If people have some questions, obviously we have a giant honey show, a lot of stuff. Yes, it is a dangerous thing to have a chicken around Kentucky. And Chris, thanks for supporting the stream team and the video that we did with you all, back in what was it, August or whatever it was, when we announced the expo and stuff like that. All that money that everyone put in, I just want to say thank you. That was the stream team put that towards the youth program for 2024, and we're just so excited to be able to have more kids in the future. But you guys, put that out there to help support us, and I just want everyone to know that does that. It means a lot still, and we appreciate it. These kids appreciate it a lot. This might be what sets them on the path of being a beekeeper for the rest of their life, and who knows, one of these girls or guys might be the one that helps us out, in a way that we really need in the future that we don't even know that we need right now. So ECP, thanks for supporting the guys. We will be taking orders on Global Patties again this year. I got to meet the owners of Global Patties there in Canada. It's one of the reasons I really wanted to go. And it's a husband and wife team and a son, and it's very family oriented. So I really liked getting to just be able to talk to them through the whole process. So we'll have the Global Patties on a huge discount with the Canadian rocket fuel, Apis Biologics mixed in. And so they immigrated from Hungary.
Oh, wow.
And there seems to be there's a lot of beekeepers from Hungary that are eventually get to the United States, or they send products to the United States. So it must be a big deal over there. And they brought some type of like Hungarian sausage or something like that, and they started a company. And a commercial beekeeper had a need for pollen patties, and they built a company based around they couldn't get anything going for local made pollen patties, and they just kind of like, well, I think we can probably help you out, buddy. And they were just a hobby beekeeper at the time, and the next thing you know, fast forward, and now they're one of the biggest pollen patty producers in North America. So
Wow.
That's pretty cool. Hey,
That's awesome. David
Mr.
Burns,
David
thanks
Burns.
for thanks for that. David Burns is going to be another one of the phenomenal speakers at the Bee Expo, and he's just an
100%.
all-around good guy. And no, he's not my uncle. Wait till you see the video. He shamed me in front of everybody on camera to let everybody know that we're not related. But we had a good time. David came out here for the Convergence, and it was awesome. So looking forward to seeing David down in Louisville. And so make sure you go check out one of the David Burns talks and check out his YouTube channel.
Yeah, he's going to have a booth there. You'll get a hang out with him, get some pictures. I think the autographs with pictures have gone up to $50 a piece this year. But
I think so.
Yep. Yeah. Well, when you're as famous as he is, he's the better looking Burns.
One.
That's why you can. That's why you have to pay people to get yours done, Greg.
I know. It's a fact. It is what it is. Oh, cool. Well, Kamon, thanks for the conference updates. If folks want more information on that, if you're looking for tickets, right when this video publishes, there will be a link where you can go right there. You can get your tickets right from the link there too. If you are interested in wax dip boxes, bucket feeders, plugs, the list kind of goes on and on and on. For right now, we have our specials up for our wax dip boxes and our bucket feeders, both 1 and 2 gallon. They are on our website at naturesimagefarm.com. If you go to our website at the very top, you'll see the header. It says NAHBE specials. Just click it, and you'll be directed to those products. And as we have more, you'll find them there too. We'll post them on the socials. I'm sure you'll see them on the Bee Expo Facebook group as well. But we're really excited to bring what we are passionate about, where we feel we can bring value to the community. And so, again, if you're interested, naturesimagefarm.com. Kamon, we're at that time where it's winter's here, whether you're ready or not. This is a little bit philosophical, but when we were up there, Susie and I celebrated our 23 years, and we got away to the Smokies like we talked about earlier. And
Nice.
on kind of the last night there, we're kind of just cruising through Bryson City, just walking around. It's a beautiful little place. I got an ice cream cone. And when you're walking across the river there, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the river, and a lot of, you've heard it said before, like time is like a river, no beginning, no end. And I've started to think, when winter is coming, it's not as though it's like a calendar event and we're waiting X amount of days and winter shows up. Like it's already set in motion. There's nothing that we're going to do that's going to stop it. There's nothing that we're going to do with our beekeeping right now that's going to course correct for anything that we maybe didn't do a month ago or 2 months ago. A lot of us are in situations where we're primarily focused on mites. And if you didn't get in and treat for mites before they were making the winter bees, you're forced into this position where you're thinking, well, what do we do? We still need to knock mites down so there's less potential for viral loads and such. But you find yourself in a position where you start analyzing everything that you did, my splits, my queens, the feed, the treatments. Are they ready for winter? It's coming whether we want to appreciate it or not. But Kamon, what are some of the big things that you do late fall that helps set those colonies up to be as successful as possible as they march into wintertime down there in Tennessee?
A lot of praying. So there's several things that we do. The best thing that we do is what we did 2 months ago. And I know that's not what everyone wants to hear now because it's now, but honestly, the best thing we did for our bees now is what we did 2 months ago. And prepping them to be in this situation. Obviously, there are things that we can do now, but the number one thing that I recommend is a lot of people think, especially new beekeepers, and that you just don't know. You think you got a flow going on because you go out there and there's still some asters out there and there's still some goldenrod and all that kind of stuff. Get out there, get in your beehives and see if they have food, and maybe you still don't have enough experience to determine how much they have. So it depends on location, how long your winters are. But in Tennessee, I'm a pretty temperate, mild area. We don't get a real winter. We get mud for Christmas and all that kind of stuff. So I still want to have, if it's a good 8, 10, 12 frame cluster, I want a full deep box worth of food in there. So that means it's typically a double deep situation, and we're going to have a deep box on top, and the bees are probably going to start in the bottom like normal, and they're going to work their way up through the winter time. And so start feeding them now while it's warm. It's really hard to put the feed to them when the daily highs are low 50s or in the 40s for the daily highs. And so get it done now. We're still going to have a few warm spells, even up as far north as you guys are at. And so take advantage of these early October days, because once we get into November, it's going to get tricky. Now, we can make sugar bricks, and we can use fondant, but those can be time-consuming and expensive. And the best feed is the feed that the bees put into the comb. So the number one thing I'm doing is getting into the hives and checking weights. If you have a colony that's a little bit small, you can downsize it, and you can run a single brood chamber through winter. We do that here. We'll run singles through winter. We run doubles through winter. You can do both of them. The main thing is you have a good, healthy cluster of winter bees, and that means they need good nutrition. So a little bit of pollen patties can be helpful. If you don't have a lot of small hive beetles or zero small hive beetles, a lot of commercial guys and professionals go ahead and feed them a little bit of pollen patties anyways. Some of these fall pollens are just not great, and even when they are great, some years they're not great the other years because maybe you didn't get the rains that you needed to give the soil what it needed to make a good healthy pollen in the plant. So Randy McCaffrey's here. I guess we gotta stop wearing this hat. Man, I can't believe he just saw me wear this.
Cam, you're talking about feeding and getting those boxes configured right. Have you I don't know if you've seen it in your neck of the woods. A lot of folks came in today to the shop to talk about it. What a lot of folks were seeing is the goldenrod that we did get. It's been in bloom for 4 weeks or so, but not really in the last 10 days was it a really producing variety. And then it is on the downhill quick. It's already starting to brown out. Mm-hmm. It's really going downhill quick. And what a lot of folks are saying is they're describing this situation in their colonies. And I can't say that I've seen it before that I can remember this time of year, but I've always seen it in March. And what is going on is before the goldenrod started to bloom, we had about 5 weeks of dearth. So everyone is having the same problem right now. The queens are actually up in the top box if they're in doubles, and it's packed full of honey. The box below is a ghost town, empty drawn comb, and everyone is in the very top of the box, and they're not moving. They're not going anywhere. I give recommendations for folks in that situation, but have you ever seen something like that where the bees are and they hit the ceiling this time of year? And what do you do to get that colony reoriented and on the right track?
the work we did 2 months ago.
Mm.
I'm sorry. But it's kind of true. So you're in that situation now, you can think about what you should have done 2 months ago, but you can't do it. So
Right.
primarily I'm going to observe and like, okay, if they're in that top box, and we want to be careful because you can rotate boxes, but if you're fixing to come up on the next few weeks a lot of cool weather, that's counterproductive for the bees. And if we're in that top box, though, and the queen's laying it up pretty good, and there's some resources like bee bread and maybe a little bit of sugar syrup or honey, and so she's laying it full of brood, we can rotate some food down. Like rotate a couple frames of bee bread down, maybe a little bit of honey, and put that down. And then you can pull up some of those empty combs to give her some room to lay, because we don't want her to run out of the room to lay. We need as many winter bees as possible. This can actually be a problem of overfeeding too. Some beekeepers feed so much in late summer that when the bees get to the fall flow, they have the health, they've treated for mites, they've got a good queen, but they fed so much the queen can't lay a good cluster because there's so much sugar syrup or honey that's being fed. So it's kind of a really delicate balance there. It's not like rocket science, but if you feed a lot and then this is how it happens, right? When you finally do the right feeding that you should have done, and then you actually get a goldenrod flow that year, and then you get 20 pounds packed on, and then but that's beekeeping for you. And that's why as beekeepers, we go out there and we keep the bees and we see what they need in the moment. So you can rotate some frames up. But what I try to do is when we pull the honey supers in June, we yank all that honey off, we draw some comb, and we feed, and that upper second deep box never gets under like 30 pounds of food. And we keep that on there all the way into September. And then once we get right to the point where we see the goldenrod start to perform, we don't feed anything, but they've got like 25, 30 pounds of feed minimum. So even if there is no fall flow, it's not like they're going to be dead 2 weeks later or 3 weeks or really take a big hit. But after the fall flow starts, I'm visiting within 2 weeks because I don't ever trust it. And 2 weeks later, I'm ready to feed. Now, if I don't have to feed, I'm doing a happy dance. But that's like 1 out of 4 to 1 out of 5 years in my experience. So feeding is a lot of it. Get it done early. Real quick, if anyone wants to make sugar bricks, though, you get behind the 8 ball, and that happens to me. Then take 10 pounds of sugar, take a half cup of water, and you can throw that in a bucket and just get a drill, and you can mix that together, pack it into trays, and stick it in an oven at like 150 degrees. And leave it there for about an hour, and then just turn your oven off and let it cool down naturally. And those things will be hard enough to almost make Greg feel it when you hit him over the head with one. Almost.
Yeah. Well, feeding is a tricky thing because at different parts of the country, you're in a different scenario here. But the bees were doing so well early on that when we hit that 5-week dry patch before goldenrod, they were burning up all the resources in the brood area of the colony. Once they started doing that, everyone started to move up to where the food is in that double. That's where everyone wants to hang out. That's where she had the ability to have the food for all of the larvae. Now the bottom box underneath it there is empty, and that's exactly what a lot of folks are doing, is trying to at least create that chimney between the two. If there's only brood in the top box, a lot of folks are just putting the second box down below, moving some of that cat food up, making some drone comb in the brood nest area where she can continue to lay. The last thing that we want in Ohio right now is to have queens stop absolutely dead in their tracks laying, especially if they are still working to get numbers for the winter. Worse off if you are late in the game on mite treating. And I know I've got colonies out here too that I'm going to have to go out and reassess and kind of see where they're at. I know they're going to need treated. How I treat, when I treat, there's nothing we can do now to course correct from 2 months ago or even a month ago. But what we got to be able to find out is if we have colonies that need treated and they still need brood to build up to get big enough for the winter time, and we can get by in small colonies. But I like you mentioned, I like a story and a half, a single or a double, just 2 double deeps is great too if they're healthy. But there's a fine line between guessing on what the fall flow is going to do, how it actually hits, how it's going to impact the box. But I like what you said there, Kamon. You can't bank on the fall flow. You look and see what it does. If it hits, great. Then you just save money on feed. If it doesn't, you got to be prepared to jump in and go ahead and put the feed on them while it's warm, while they can do something with it. Trying to get bees to take down syrup when it's 45 degrees doesn't seem to be a winning proposition. That's not something Bruce has to worry about, though. Down in Alabama, what kind of situation, Bruce, do you find your bees in as you, now that you're in whatever you call this weather down there, fall-ish, but
yeah,
what does the feed situation look like right now for your colonies in the Dothan, Alabama area, Bruce?
Well, to be honest, the goldenrod is just for the last week or two really kind of kicking in. So I'm not sure what they're bringing in. I know that, when Eric and I went through them this past weekend, the ones that we did, the bees seemed calm. They seemed happy. There's some nectar coming in a little bit. I have been feeding some of them, especially the ones that needed it a little quite heavily. So we may have some nectar/sugar syrup coming in, but even in the areas where I haven't been feeding them, they've got some weight to them, so they're doing pretty well. But I've done, in the past, I've kind of just let them put whatever fall honey they could in there and made sure they were heavy, and then just kind of put fondant or just try to get them through the winter. When I was doing the pollination stuff, I'm not going to do that this year, but when I've done that in the past, you have to artificially stimulate them. And you can do that in the wintertime here because, I know Kamon, you're a little bit north, but right here where I'm at, we're never, even in December, January, February, we're always within a week of a 70-degree day, typically. So, you can even put open feed out for them, and they'll get it on the warm days, and then they don't get it on the cold days. And it just seems to work out pretty good. I've been able to actually put weight on hives in the middle of the winter time here. You'll have sometimes, even a week where it's too cold for them to fly, but it just doesn't last. Like, we don't go through months of them staying in the hives and not leaving. And so as far as the cleansing flights, bees getting out and flying, they're always within at most probably 5 to 7 days at most of not flying. Usually it's just a day or two. Usually it's just a couple of days. And, even if it's freezing, like the high is 35 one day, 3 days later it'll be 60 degrees. And so, it works out well. And so I'm not sure if I've answered your question, but this year I have, I've actually fed more probably in the last month than I've usually fed this time of the year. I've noticed stuff's been popping up on Facebook memories that I've fed like this time of the year in the past when they were getting late. But, I actually fed twice pretty heavy the bees I thought needed it, especially those ones up in Ozark that almost starved on me about a month ago, the ones that I made the splits with the Michael Palmer Queens, and they blew through their stores. When I split them, the ones I didn't split kept weight, but the ones I split that were trying to build back up just blew through whatever stores they had that I'd split out. I kind of split the resources evenly in those colonies, and fortunately I got on them and fed them with some hive feeders plus some open feeding, and just got them really looking much better. But I'm determined this year, I think I've told you guys, Kamon included, that, I really, the three parts of the three-tiered approach with the queens, mites, and the nutrition. I think I understand the principles behind the mites and the queens quite well, but feeding has been my weakest area. There's one reason for that is just the expense of it. It's hard for me to go for, I've always tried to, if the bees get through winter, if they're heavy and they make it okay. But now I'm trying to really get that nutrition part figured out a little better as well. And so that's kind of my next step, and maybe we're getting there. I'm still learning and growing with this, but down here it's just different because you can feed some throughout the winter if you need to. You can bulk them up, you can build them up. You can feed them the thicker syrup or the different thicker syrup and stuff down here to help put weight on. But they never brood all the way down here. Rarely do they brood down to nothing. I mean, you can go in most of the colonies down here in the middle of winter, and they've at least got a couple frames that have some brood on them. So. Wow. We don't ever have a totally broodless period. It's just a little bit, it's just different. And the further south you go, of course, you get down in the Panhandle and in Central Florida, and I don't think they really even have much of a winter down there, And so they can do stuff almost year round. It creates more work throughout the year, but they can get a lot of stuff done throughout the year too that maybe I can't get done here. But I'm not sure if I answered your question, Greg, but that's kind of where we're at.
Do you feel like you're in a good place with feeding, or if not, do you think you can get there before
I
you?
think I think I am actually. I better than I usually am, and I am trying out I've got 3 of your bucket feeders right now on some of the new queens that I've got. Those lids that you sent me to try out, and so I'm trying that with the trickle feeding, and the rest of them have of course, the open feed / frame feeders in them, but I think they're in pretty good shape. I really going through them. Eric will tell you, Spirito, we went through and we went to a couple of areas, and really they're pretty good. I will tell you this though, it's interesting because when it comes to the mites, we went to the new yard I've got in Midland City, and we're both kind of amazed at how good those bees look out there. I haven't really fed them, but there's cotton and all kinds of resources nearby. But we noticed one colony. I think we checked on 4 or 5 or maybe 6 of those colonies there, did some mite checks, and the one colony that looked really weak there, and some of those queens might be getting a little bit old, a couple of years old, but went in there, looked at them, and I said, well, let's do a mite wash on this one. And the one colony looked the sickest or didn't look the healthiest. It had a mite wash of 10. It was out above threshold. The other ones we checked, the mite wash, it was like 0, 1, 2 mites within threshold. And so it's just interesting how I had another colony down in Slocum, same situation back in August, checked them. They had 10 mites, put Apivar in there. Now the colony is thriving, looks great, 0 mites. And so it's just amazing to me kind of how you feed them a little bit or they have the proper nutrition and the mite count is low and they just do better. It's just amazing how this vibrant, healthy looking, Greg, the way you describe those, how do you describe the bees that just look healthy? They have like a
certain
look
luster.
There's a luster to them. Yeah, they seem
coat.
happy and healthy, and they just look different, and it's just pretty amazing.
Awesome. Brian, what about you? Do you feel like you're in a good place as far as feed goes with your colonies right now?
I just got all my supers off the other day, so we're going from weather where we're in the 70s and 80s to literally tomorrow we start the 50s. So it's like the switch just gets turned off, and I wish I had feeders on my colonies right now, but I do not. I'm kind of behind the 8 ball, just and that's how work and life gets. You get busy sometimes, but I'll get it on and we'll see. I mean, when I typically feed like in the fall, it's typically like the entire month of October and the first like 2 weeks of November. So that's my typical period where I feed. It's those like 6 weeks there where I like to keep feed on them. I'm probably going to be about a week late this year. It's just, life gets you busy sometimes. So hopefully they're okay. Now, just a general rule of thumb that I always keep though, and I tell everybody that I know this, I don't ever harvest any honey. I don't ever pull anything out of my deeps. So typically I leave that for the bees. That way they have some weight on them. Now, could they use a little bit more weight at this point? I think all of them could. So that's going to be my next step, is to drop my strips and get the feed on them. That way it just bulks them up and I get that last, treatment on them, at least here in the fall. So,
Yeah.
But I'm not, I'm kind of nervous about it, to be honest. So
It is a little tricky, Greg, because I think like Kamon said, like you just don't want to backfill everything either. You're trying to have that queen ramping up and building the winter bees. Even down here, we need them strong in the winter time. They need to be strong right now. And so it's just tricky because if you feed them too much, they can backfill everything and the queen can't lay.
Right.
And so it is a tricky thing. There's an art to it. I know we did that one discussion, but there is an art to it. Everybody's got their own little process, and I'm still trying to iron that out. But
would you say one of the big things, Kamon, Bruce, and Brian, is that one thing I know that I'm getting crippled with this year is while we try to set the bees up a couple times throughout the year, I don't want to say delinquently put them on cruise control, but we try to set them up where we can buy ourselves a little bit of time, whether sometimes it's 3 days, sometimes it's 7 days, sometimes it's 14 days before they need something, before there's any kind of a critical action. This year, we've tried to set the bees up knowing that they needed fed, give them a little bit of feed, and then a flow of some type does happen. They go to town, start filling everything up. It drives me crazy. I've got colonies where depending on when the brood hit, dictates whether or not we've got backfilling in the brood chamber. Colonies that were waiting on that next brood cycle as feed was coming in were fine, but now they have a lack of brood because they didn't have the numbers out there to gather and collect. Colonies that were a little further ahead, that had plenty of brood, they started backfilling because they had such a greater field force out to bring everything back in. So you have some colonies that are like, oh my gosh, they need this. You got other colonies that are on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, and that absolutely drives me crazy is not having things consistent across the yard. But the problem, I don't think, being that we've got mating nukes, you've got nukes that are still out there, you've got some production colonies, you have colonies that were just drone colonies. They're all in little different phases. I don't know how you balance it out. Kamon, what do you do in situations where you try to get these bees semi-uniform, so you're making the same move or the same action on most of all of these? When you get your feed straightened up, or you think you're as close as you can with feed, what is the next thing that you're thinking about to get these bees ready and to be successful for the wintertime outside of feed?
Well, I've got a thing. I'm going to kind of wrap it up just a little bit on the feed if I can. So, the main thing is, I've seen in the comments and just talking to a lot of people over the years, everyone has to address it themselves, because the difference between a handful of miles can mean quite a lot when it comes to flow. So, Jim over here is not having to feed at all, and Kamon over here is having to feed like he's never fed before. And so that's why, these YouTube videos can be fun and they can be helpful at times. They give you some perspective, but the reality of it is you've got to get into the bees, and checking them every other week is important. And never let a good sized colony, anything bigger than 8 frames or stronger, have less than 3 deep frames worth of honey or sugar syrup. If you can, I try to target 5 to 6 throughout summer. That's the goal, because I want to check my bees every other week during the summer months. And it's fast inspections because there's robbing, and also it's hot and I don't really want to be there. So if they have uniformly 5 to 6 frames of honey or sugar syrup, the queen is going to lay to her fullest potential, every single one of them. If a colony is not keeping up with the rest in the group, then there may be a queen problem or some type of problem. So feeding, actually, if we're uniformly keeping our bees of similar strength close, and by and large doing that, it gives us an indicator of when colonies have issues, queen issues, other nutritional issues, mite issues, various issues. And so the more uniform we can keep our honeybees, the better. It is very hard to do that sometimes, because out of 10 colonies, all of a sudden we go back the next time and one of them's queenless. Yay. And okay, this one over here, whatever, something's going on with that one. So, and then the next week you fix that one, and then the next week it's a different one. So that's, management is literally a part of having high levels of success with this. And it all depends on what you want. I want all of my bees to be very productive and very healthy. And so that's why I always have these backup mating nukes coming out of the spring. And I'll have 2 to 3 frames of brood in these mating nukes. And I'll have a queenless colony or a poor queen. And I'll just plug them right in, paper combined. And now I've fixed this colony. So it keeps it very uniform. Try to keep my feed uniform. And I know that if I take 2 weeks to get back to those colonies, they are not going to be running on 1 frame of food. And therefore, I'm going to keep a bigger cluster. They're going to be more resilient, and I'm going to have a better time keeping them not only alive, but in a prime condition. So I kind of touched into the second part for winter prep, is we're consolidating. And these mating nukes, or any extra colonies, or maybe there's 2 colonies, one right next to the other, and one of them the queen's just gone kaput. We don't have anything to slate. It's too late to try to fix it anyways, even if we did. Just try to throw a queen in there. We're just going to combine that to another colony. Let's take our losses now. Let's protect our equipment now. And that's the feeding's number 1. If mites have already been taken care of, feeding's number 1. And then consolidating bees down is number 2. And maybe both queens are good, but you just have too many queens, and sometimes we run into these problems, right? We'll have a couple mating nukes left over because we always want to have those backup queens, and those are good queens. Well, I'm thinking about selling some of them, just like shipping a handful of queens to a buddy who's further south that still has time. But a lot of times we just combine them with a colony that we're like, is this queen good? She's a little borderline. We'll paper combine them and let the colonies decide which queen is going to be the victor. And heck, sometimes they end up with 2 queens going into winter. So consolidating down. And let me reiterate, mite treatments do work now, but if you have high mite loads, it's hard to get it under control. And even if you do get it under control, the damage a lot of times can already be done at this point. It's going to keep your bees from having a big cluster. Doesn't mean that they're going to die, but it typically means you're going to end up with those 2 to 3 frame clusters of bees coming out of winter instead of those 7 and 10 frame clusters of bees coming out of winter. So going up to Alberta, talking to some of these guys that are running 15,000 colonies, 5,000 colonies. I just talked today to a guy who's running 500 colonies here in the U.S. Keep the mites low throughout the entire season. Never let them get to high thresholds, and all of a sudden beekeeping becomes a lot easier. So it comes back to the great queen's dead mites and good nutrition. The only thing I can say besides that this time of the year is if you're further up north and you need to prep your equipment, maybe get ready to wrap and stuff, but I can't teach you how to do that. I've never had to do that in my life, and I'm very thankful for that.
Now you're just bragging.
I am bragging. I'm not as bad as Bruce is, but almost. And put a mouse guard on. For those of you who I don't know what that is, you can just use a 1/4-inch hardware cloth. You can staple that at the entrance of the colony, or there's other ones you can buy. And mice can get into your boxes if your bees go up and cluster in the second deep box, and those mice can build in that bottom, try to share some of that heat. And there's nothing like having a bunch of mouse pee and all that inside of it. It's awful. And someone asked a question earlier about pollen, about how much pollen should you have going into winter. Honestly, if there's a decent pollen flow, what you'll find is if you're in a double deep, there's several frames of pollen in that bottom deep box. That's where they stick it. They stick the majority of it in the bottom box. And there's a lot of research showing that bee bread loses nutrition over time. I don't fully understand, and I'm not sure anyone fully understands all the dynamics and value of having that good, healthy amount of pollens in that brood nest down below. Does it get older? Is it as valuable? Is it very useful? We do know that bee bread does degrade over time. All I know, and talking to other beekeepers that have way more experience than me, is that they will not kickstart themselves off of that bee bread when it's time to start rearing brood.
Right, yeah.
It's always the first bit of pollen flow.
Yep.
You can feed pollen sub, whether it's patties or whether it's dry, they can have 5 frames of bee bread down below. You could give them 10. Does not matter. Until that fresh pollen hits, those bees do not want to brood heavily and seriously. And so I don't fully know if there's a number that you need to have going into winter on bee bread. I know you need to have it prepping the winter bees, but after that point, it would be interesting to see a study where they determined if it was all utilized once that pollen hits and they kind of merge them together to create a really good protein. Maybe if it's like a dandelion that's not fully complete on the amino acid profile, or are they yanking it out and chucking it out and when we don't realize it? Because bees sometimes are like my son Jimmy, and they just waste food.
Wait a minute, your kids waste food? Come on now.
Well, Jimmy actually doesn't waste a ton just because he eats more than you do, Greg. He's going to be a little guy like his daddy, I think. He actually was like, I think he was measuring. It's like, I think I'm going to be taller than you, Daddy. I'm like, that's really not much of an accomplishment, son. But you probably, it is quite possible. And we have a lot of fun around here. So that's kind of my winter prep in a nutshell. I don't get real fancy. I do have some insulated hives. There's no question that insulated hives lower stress levels for honeybees.
Yeah.
I have, let's see, 32 insulated hives. Some of them are polystyrene. Some of them are the Apame hives. And there's no doubt in my mind that during the critical times of the year that they really shine, whether it's heat stress or cold stress, they really help those bees out. I think in the kind of the intermediate times of the year, I don't think they shine quite as well, but during the critical times of stress, you can definitely, in my opinion, tell. But you can have $1 million beehive, and if the bees stink on the inside, it just doesn't matter. So,
Right.
Just prep those bees, get the work done, folks. We're almost there. A lot of us are burnt out at this point. Did Bob Benny post a video recently about being burnt out? Somebody did. Yeah, it was Bob.
Yeah, I posted a little clip that when we had Bob on talking about burnout and what does he do to work through that. Yep.
That's right. I just ignore you a lot of times, Greg, and I just was listening to the King.
It's totally fine.
So, no, it was a really good clip, and it's something that a lot of us struggle with is the August and September burnout and late July, and especially the further south you go, the more burnout I think you get because our seasons are so long. I don't know how the Florida and southern Georgia and Alabama guys do it. It's and my buddy in Hawaii, it's literally go time 12 months out of the year. They're raising queens in December, January, every month of the year. Bless their heart.
Yeah.
You know, some people just aren't smart enough to stop. And
Well, we did a stream team video on that too about a month ago, didn't we, guys? We just did that was our
burnout and how we work through it. Yeah, for sure.
But it is a thing for sure. I was literally in August. I took about almost a month off. I just did a little bit here or there, but I just couldn't. I just got to the point where I just was extremely burned out. I got starting to feel that motivation again, but I was really in a pretty rough spot there for a few weeks. I was done.
Yeah.
But now I'm starting to feel that excitement about the upcoming year. It's pretty cool.
Well,
fellas, I know we can all take maybe as we get a little closer to winter, we'll start talking more individually about our thought processes and kind of the main things that we're looking for to get our colonies for winter. But to recap, Kamon, it sounds like what you're most concerned with is making sure the colonies are getting fed correctly, not to be banking on fall flows, and also to be considering getting your colonies downsized appropriately. Don't have equipment on there that the bees can't maintain. Get that off, get them to the right size boxes, get that frame and those equipment maybe either onto a colony who can use it and protect it, or get it into storage. I think that those are huge things, and it's going to be different. All the different parts of the country, what we get by with, what we can't get by with, is tough. And I don't think we want to pretend as a northern beekeeper that it would be so much easier if our colonies were down in Georgia or Tennessee or Florida. And the truth of the matter is, no matter which side of the equation you're on, it's a whole other set of circumstances and challenges. If the bees are south, that means, like Bruce said, they're not really slowing down brooding, which means they're eating, which means everything, mites, hive beetles, you name it, can continue to grow. And if you're not on top of that, it can be a real problem. If you're up north, right, and you didn't get your colonies big enough and they're not healthy enough, they don't really stand a chance no matter how warm you think it was going to be. Up north, it's kind of nice if they do go into a little bit of a torpor, they can slow down. If we do have those breeds that want to slow them and get them into those smaller colonies, because it gives them a chance to just kind of hang out. There's something with apple trees that need chill hours. Now, I don't think bees need necessarily chill hours, but I think it's beneficial if they can have some time to slow down some, because it gives us beekeepers. They're really okay. Yeah,
it's. There are commercial beekeepers who put bees into sheds because they're finding it's advantageous to not let the bees brood all winter long, so they don't wear their bodies out. Yeah. And they don't. And there's also some benefits of, just like with fasting with humans, how it causes our bodies to cleanse reset. And then and reset. There's a similar effect for the bees. So there are some beekeepers that I've been talking to, and this is pretty preliminary stuff, but they are starting to use formic acid even when they don't really need a lot of mite treatment. and they'll use it like, say, where Bruce is, like in November, and just to get the darn bees to shut down. And they're like,
Yeah.
here, take this. And they're just getting it to shut the queens down,
Yeah.
and also to clean the mites up for late season. And some of them are saying that they're getting really good results from that forced brood break in winter that they would never have otherwise. So, you know, there's always something new to learn. That's why we are talking about this together, and that's why we'll be probably talking about it in the future. It's an exciting time to be alive in beekeeping.
Well, Kamon, we appreciate you taking time to not only share updates about the North American Honeybee Expo, but sharing your thoughts on some tips on successful wintering. Now's the time. Winter's coming whether you're ready or not. There are some things that we can do, so we appreciate you taking some time. Brian, if you'll throw the link up there again where folks can buy tickets. It'll be in the description below. You can click that link, get your tickets. Already, Kamon's at 2,600 tickets for the Bee Expo, which is unbelievable. There's still a little bit of time left. Kamon, do you foresee having to sell out those tickets? Is there? I know Laurel's smarter than you. She'll probably say, Kamon, you got to keep it at a certain number, so we've got some room and some flex. And you're probably, let's see how far we can push it. Do you foresee having to sell out? When should folks really make sure they hit that, get those tickets before is there a time where it could be too late?
Well, in the past, we have sold out in like October. This year's going to be different. We have the biggest problem last year, and then we had to shut it down because we just didn't have enough space for everybody, parking wise. For those who were finally, that kid is leaving.
Chris, come on.
Yeah, come on, man. You know,
what a good
there is
hats
a
off to Chris,
ban
though.
option. Just hit the ban button on a Chris Medeiros, and you know, that'll make my day. Just let him back in eventually after he apologizes. Now we can actually talk bees. So, this place has like 10,000 parking spots.
Wow.
The limitation on the quantity of people is based off of what we think that we can have and still perform and have a wonderful conference and experience. The experience has always been really nice at our events, and so we want to make sure that that does not diminish. If anything, our plan is to make it quite a bit better, and I think we have all the pieces to outdo anything that we've ever done before. We definitely have a lot more experience, so the execution's going to be better. But the vendors, oh my goodness, they're doing so much more than they have in the past, and so they're growing right along with us, and we're able to get a lot more speakers in and have more speaking rooms. So there's just a lot more opportunities and fun. So I really think the 3,000 is going to be the number, but Laurel may let me go a couple hundred over that. A lot of people are asking about the one-day tickets, and it is something that we have been debating heavily. It is going to be a lot more work than what a lot of people realize if we do that. My staff, by and large, are beekeepers. They don't want to be tied up the entire time.
Right.
I don't want to be tied up the entire time. And one of the biggest problems we had last year is getting people to wear sometimes their lanyards. And we had some people that showed up and entered through the back that did not even have a ticket at all.
Wow.
And I just don't think it's fair to my staff who were trying to have a good time to have to be the bad guy and go, hey, you don't belong here. You haven't paid your ticket. Get out. And I don't want them to have to do that. I don't want to have to do that. So opening it up to one-day tickets and various things, it's just a lot of logistics to think about with these things. So, but we might send a poll out soon, guys, seeing what the interests are for one-day Saturday tickets only. And so for folks who can't come for the whole time, it is possible. There's going to be some interesting developments. This is, let's see, October, November, December. Holy smokes. We have like 92 days.
Well, truth be told about the one, I mean, look, I get it, like a one-day pass, but here, I mean, the price of the tickets already for what you're getting, I don't know if anyone could balk at something like that. Yeah, a one-day pass if you were in the same neighborhood or this, but here's, with respect to the facilities at Sevierville, the convention facilities in Louisville is top-notch professional convention space. It is unlike anything anyone I think has ever seen in the beekeeping space, where this place is designed just for this. Airports, parking, hotels, accommodation. It's like nothing anyone I think has ever seen when it comes to a beekeeping conference. And so for the price that the tickets are, what you're going to get not only in speakers, vendor deals, but also Kamon, it sounds like you're throwing in the videos of the speakers as well. That in and of itself is worth the difference in going one day to the full pass. So I would encourage folks, don't, if you're sitting around hemming and hawing, if, well, do I want to get a 1 day or a 3 day? Look, get the 3 day or whatever, or get the full pass, get the videos. I think it's going to be time and money well spent.
Well, I 100% agree on that, and that's why we have not. I mean, there's like extractors that are $400 off. I mean, there's one company that you got a $400 off extractor if you need something that large, and the small ones you can, get a light one. The pollen patties we have are killer price on the pollen patties, and you guys have wax dip boxes. There's a ton of stuff, and I think people often overlook it because some people don't do this, and that's okay. But if you ever get to the point where you're trying to network,
right,
and you want to build relationships, and you want to be involved in the bee community more, whether that's on the bee club level, whether that's innovation, whether that's with cutting edge research, or just becoming a better beekeeper, you want to be around successful people. This is one of the truest things that I've ever learned is if you want to be successful, you hang around successful people.
That's
and the more time I've hung around successful people, I found myself becoming more successful. Whether that's beekeeping success, whatever. So the networking, I think, is the most valuable thing that we offer. And truly, in any other conference, what we're offering, you would pay $400 or $500 up to $1,200 for that ticket. We're not going to charge you that because we want a big crowd, we want a lot of fun and some shenanigans, just not too many shenanigans.
Not too many shenanigans. Red-tailed hawks, rhinoceroses, elephants. Who knows what Yappy may try to bring in? But I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, even if there's something to be said about supporting what this conference means. Yes, there's speakers and vendors and all that, but it's about the community. When you show up and you vote for your wallet, that money is going to help put conferences like this on every single year, and that's a big deal. I think folks we are all understand that yes, it's about beekeeping and that's great, but there's more to it than just that. And I think when you spend time with us at the conference or you get to know us, you'll see the reasons why there are so many good folks, or their heart's in the right place, their soul's in the right place. They've got a heart and a mind to help folks. And I think if you will find so much value in just the relationships that you make, shaking hands, getting to know folks better, it's totally worth the time and money spent, invested in doing that. Kamon, thanks again for everything that you and Laurel do. Hopefully you're not wearing Laurel out this late in the game with any last minute harebrained ideas and, well, what about this and what about that and hey, what if we did this and what if can we turn this guitar amp to 11 and all the things, but we really appreciate not only your effort, but really appreciate Laurel's effort and having to deal with you and work with you every single day. And I mean that
made her
lovingly.
Laugh in the other room, yeah, she's over there giggling now. She's always listening in on her phone, making sure that I don't say anything too stupid. If it gets bad enough, all of a sudden it's like the power just goes out. And
yeah,
the next
a
time
big shepherd hook cuts you across
like
like Looney Tunes.
A swollen eye the next time. It's all black and everything, and I'm instructed to say that I got stung by a bee, and you guys, just that's the narrative.
Exactly.
But you just do what you have to do. But all jokes aside, it's good seeing you guys. I'll let you go. Thanks for having me on and for all the things that you do for Laurel and I. And thanks to everyone who's been in the comments. Sorry we haven't been able to get to everyone's questions. That's primarily my fault. It usually is. So see you guys.
You can't get 4 YouTubers on the screen and get words wise, edgewise. So Kamon, thanks again. We'll see you real soon.
See you guys.
See you, Kamon.
Well, it's one of the things where you can just talk all night. one of the cool things about the conferences is all the moments in between, spending time having a meal with somebody, time in the hallways, this, that, at the vendor booths, getting to know folks. I think for me is the highlights of any kind of a conference. There's going to be a lot of great folks there, and so it's going to be awesome. One last time, we're doing our best to provide the absolute best pricing and bring a lot of value to folks here at this conference. And we just posted, they just went live, nature'simagefarm.com. If you are looking for wax dip boxes, bucket feeders, and the list will go on and on. It will be added to our website. But we got some great deals on quality boxes built here, wax dipped here by us. They're beautiful boxes and a great price. Deeps 24, mediums $22. If you want to go ahead and get them loaded with Premier Puracell double waxed foundations, you can see the pricing there too. 55 loaded on deeps, 48 on mediums. We'll also have 8-frame equipment there too. We're really doing our best to bring value to this community, bring the things that we're known for, the things that we really do really well, and things that I think that we do best. And so that's what we're going to bring to the conference in a big way. So if you're interested in wax dip boxes, we'd love it if you'd consider us. nature'simagefarm.com. At the very top of the screen, you'll see NAHBE specials in black. Click on that. It'll take you right there to those specials. You'll see it on our Facebook group, all over our social media at Nature's Image Farm, and there'll be some more on there too. We've got a great smoking price on bucket feeders. $8 for a 1 gallon, 10 for a 2 gallon bucket. You can't beat it. So if you're interested in those things, we'd love for you to give us the opportunity to earn your business. nature'simagefarm.com. Before we get moving and answer any of the last questions here, I got to thank Brian. Thank you for that super chat. Once again, we're going to thank Brown and Daughters Honey for theirs as well. Roy Prow, $50. Thanks a lot for that. Journey of the Outdoors, Hunting and Fishing. Thanks for your $5 donation there. You've got a question there. How do you guys feel about treatment-free beekeeping? Well, respectfully, if you've heard and been tuned in tonight, you probably have picked up on the fact that we are all about doing what's best for our bees. What's best for us and our bees may be different than you and your bees, but for us, that includes feeding them. That includes treating them for mites, making sure that we don't have viral loads inside of our colonies. It also is a lot of manipulations and boxes and frames and things like that. So rather than kind of going down a treatment-free dialogue here, I would just encourage you to do whatever you think is best for you and your bees, and your results will speak for themselves. But I want to thank you for that $5 donation. Bruce's Bees, got to thank old Bruce here. Hashtag Be the Lighthouse. Bruce, thanks for everything that you do here for the stream team, the community, and thank you for that donation. As Kamon mentioned earlier, when we had Kamon on that first time, we got a lot of donations, and I told Kamon that we wanted to do something special with that. It wasn't something that we were just going to put into the Nature's Image checking account when it came through the YouTube. So we turned right around and put that money as the stream team collective right to the youth scholarship program for the Bee Expo. So I think it's an important thing to do, to constantly be investing in the youth. They're obviously the next generation, but you just don't know which one of them could be that lighthouse to somebody else. And I think it's definitely worth spending time in our talents for the youth. Got to thank Mr. Chris Chadwick, ECP himself, the prospector. Thank you for your donation. Dave Dwyer. The question is, made it to 2,000 tickets. As you might have heard, Kamon's already at 2,600 sold tickets. Absolutely unreal. We'll thank my pseudo uncle, David Burns, for the $50 donation there. Can't wait for the conference. I hope I can sneak away and catch David speaking there. Really look forward to that, folks. Definitely want to consider going to this conference. There's going to be a lot of great speakers there, including David Burns. Be sure to check out his talk at the conference, and also check out his YouTube channel at David Burns there. And oh man, look at this. Mary Ann Sears. I love them to death. Larry and Mary Ann Sears, Salt of the Earth folks.
They're great.
Some of my absolute favorites. They came out for the Creator Convergence here, and boy, I just enjoyed having them here. Really enjoyed having Larry help us out on the sawmill, cutting up on that bee tree to see what was on the inside. That was a lot of fun. Got to thank old Kenny Bach. I just saw Kenny at the Mid-Ohio Valley Beekeepers Association. Kenny's got some queens on order with us, and I keep seeing him at West Virginia events. So that was a lot of fun. And then got to thank Lisa Gowan, the Grammy Midwife Suburban Homestead. Be sure to check out her YouTube channel. She's doing a lot of great videos, sharing her experience with the bees there on the homestead. And Lisa comments she's looking forward to the NAHBE and seeing y'all again. So again, I want to thank everybody for all you do to make broadcasts like this possible. We really appreciate you guys. We really do. So fellas, before we're already nearly 2 hours. There's a lot of things that I think we'll continue to talk about. Specifically, our operations are all unique in size and shape, goals, and context. So to try to wrap up how to best overwinter in one stream is nearly impossible. But I think as the next streams every Wednesday night at 8 p.m., as those unfold, I think we're going to be able to do a deeper dive into some specific things that we feel are creating leverage for our bees for the wintertime. Let's just briefly go around the room and just mention the one thing that has really been a game changer for you and your bees. I'll start here in the Zanesville, Ohio area with the up and down winters, the bees going through feed. It's a weird scenario where sometimes we find the bees, no matter what we do in the sealing of the colony, and they just need a little bit of extra help. One of the big things that we do that has worked out great is the Hive Alive fondant right on top of the colony for us has been an absolute game changer. And I when I trialed this product, I was kind of hoping that I would see that it gave no results and that there wouldn't be any kind of a net gain because it was one less thing I'd have to spend money on. But what I found is that the colonies hands down do better with the Hive Alive fondant on it. It gives them something else to eat, something else to chew on, and they seem to go past the honey and consume that fondant first, leaving a lot of those stores in place. So as they bust in the spring, they've got some capped honey to get into, and then the numbers just explode. So for us, I love the Hive Alive fondant. That has been one of the biggest things that we'll do. Last year, I think we put on over 300 colonies. So it's not like I'm just saying I did this once or twice and it worked, but we put it on a boatload of colonies and then we found net gain in it. So for us, that was a big deal. Bruce, what about you? What's something that you would say has been nearly a game changer for you on your overwintering success? What is there one thing for right now you think that you could pin that to?
Yes, Greg, before we actually close, I do have something I need to talk about from our friend Don, but we can do that after we kind of go around here before we actually do your final words. There is something that's kind of serious we need to address, but I would agree. Hive Alive fondant has saved several of my bees over the last couple of years. I tried it for the first time year before last. And, honestly, I had some colonies that were starving. It was cold. I didn't really have any syrup for them. And I just put that fondant on there and it got them through some really difficult times between flows in the late winter, early springtime. And I do like that. I think, hopefully this year they're just set up to be stronger than usual. So maybe we'll have better success just in trying to keep the mites under control. Kamon talked about that, trying to keep them low throughout the year instead of just trying to survive through the honey flow and then treat when the loads are high. It's best to try and knock them back and keep them low all year long if possible. And that's tricky down here, especially when it's so hot, with some of the treatments and things that you can use with supers on the colonies versus heat, and it can be kind of tricky. And so but I'm maybe starting to figure some of that out, and I'm excited to see how they do. Also the queens, I think winter prep, I think it's important to try and have good strong queens in the colonies. And I'm doing a lot of experimenting right now with different types of queens and seeing how they get through the southern winters here, but I'm excited about the future.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, what about you? What has been, has there been one thing that you can point back to over the years and say, hey, this particular thing has really helped our overwintering success.
Yeah, I mean, you already stole my mojo there and saying Hive Alive, so I almost feel like I'm copying you when I say it. But no, I mean
Well, that's
that
interesting.
those products now, you know, as a lot of people know, I'm always hesitant just to jump at a product. I like to look and I like to see results before I just jump at something. It's just always how I've been. That's just my nature. So when I started seeing all the videos about, you know, these packages with this fondant in it, I'm like, all right, whatever. I mean, I can make fondant, I can do this and that, whatever. But then I was seeing like colony strength, and you know, I was seeing it on videos. So I started using it, and exactly what Greg said, I saw. No joke. Last year, I think, was the earliest that I put the fondant on, and I saw Keith had asked when Greg, when you put it on, and last year I believe I put it on. It was right around Thanksgiving time, so I put
Right.
it on end of November, and exactly what I saw was what you said.
Mm.
Those jokers, and I'm using Bruce's terms, those jokers were straight up on that fondant and they were tearing it up. And I went through two of the fondant patties on each colony over the winter. And when I came out of the winter, those things still had weight, you
Yeah.
know, and I've seen colony sizes. Like if I'm looking on local group forums and things like that, I've seen where people are like, all right, my colonies are starting to brood up. We got 2, 3 frames of brood. You know, the season's going to be starting. At those same points, you know, there's times I'll look at mine and I've got 4, 5, 6 frames. So it's almost like I see double the amount of bees. You know, now that could also be you're almost going to shoot yourself in the foot, because if you're not monitoring and you don't have weight on those colonies and you have these large colonies, well, you're just shooting yourself in your foot. So you got to just keep an eye on them. But that product right there, I can tell you, has changed as far as my overwintering. You know, and I know Dara just recently did a video on the benefits of it, and the winter is especially a key time just because you end up with the benefits of the Hive Alive product gets into the comb. So it helps against different pathogens and things like that. And you figure, you know, like up in our area, we have to worry about different like gut health issues as compared to down south. You know, our bees are going to be locked up, you know, for months, and they can't go out, and you know, they're not going to have those cleansing flights. Like Bruce says, you know, they're always 7 days away from a 70 day or 70-degree day. We don't have that luxury. So gut health up in this part of the country is just so critical also. And that's truthfully, I mean, that product there, I can say has really helped out. So,
There's a lot to that, and I think what's important to consider is it's one thing for Greg to have an opinion, it's one thing for Bruce to have an opinion, it's one thing for Brian to have an opinion, but neither of us have decided to all come together and have the same opinion. We have all had our own experiences with different products, good or bad, and there's a lot of bad ones out there too, or ones, I shouldn't say bad. There are ones out there that what they do is really unknown. What's interesting to think about with the Hive Alive, and this is the last bit I'll say about this because I could talk all night about it. But outside of our opinions, I think a lot of folks would say that they respect the opinion and experience of Bob Benny. And Bob has been very clear about feeding and honey and food sources and such, and has gone on record to say that, believe it or not, honey isn't necessarily the bees' choice food. And why is that? Well, when you start to look at how the bees are digesting honey, even over the wintertime, you soon start to realize that that is not exactly easy for them to not only metabolize, but digest. And that can be a little bit tough for them. I think why Hive Alive is working so well. We use their patties, we use the fondant, and we mix up our Pro Suite that we sell to folks here. It's got Hive Alive in it too. Why do we do all that? Because the Hive Alive has, number one, it has thymol in it. Yeah, there's lots of other products that may or may not have benefits that have thymol in it, but at least we know Hive Alive is tested, it's trialed, it's approved there's results. We know what we're looking at. Okay, that's a big deal. Secondly, the seaweeds that are in it, whether or not you believe seaweed has any effect, good or bad, on bees, it has antibacterial and antiviral properties to it. And I think that's a big deal. When we're creating situations in the colony where the bees have the best possible chance to reduce viral loads, that's a huge deal. As they are eating and metabolizing and digesting all these feed, having the ability to have antiviral components inside of the colony is a big deal. And I think that that is helping in ways that we probably don't fully quite understand. I'm hoping to sit down with Dara at the Bee Expo and kind of pick his
Yeah.
brain a little bit and learn a little bit more about some of the nuanced details. Is why are some of these things working the way that they do? But I think when we are introducing our colonies to things like thymol or any other antimicrobial or antiviral type of a product, I think what you end up is a net gain. You end up winning because the bee's gut system is healthier. So, and I think that's easier for us to kind of understand. So I think that what Hive Alive does is different than any other thymol product out there because it's proven, it's tested, it's trialed, and there are results that speak for themselves. And so for me, if I'm going to invest in something as a feed supplement to put on top of my colony, it's going to be something that has a track record, has a history, and we know what it is that we're actually working with. But Bruce, you mentioned something that there was something that you want to talk about here before we turn loose tonight.
Yeah, before I do the Loma, does Hive Alive have published studies? I believe they do. I know it's a really greatly used product over in Europe, but you just have to reach out to the company to get those studies. Don Bearden, who is on here quite often, I haven't seen him in here tonight, but he sent me a text, and this is a really serious thing, and so it's I'm just going to read you what he said. He said, "Bruce, please do me a big favor. I know y'all are live with Kamon. Please ask the believers to pray for me and my family. My son passed away last night at age 32.
Oh,
So we just like to, I know a lot of people use the word prayer warriors and things like that. So just to, if whatever your beliefs are, if you could just offer up a prayer or
absolutely.
For Don. He's a great man. He's he's supportive of all kinds of all of us and many folks out there, and he's been a mentor to some of my friends up in the Birmingham area, Michelle Irwin, and I think he's been a mentor somewhat to Brian Lee up there and many others. He's an icon, and he has some health issues, but this is really this is just a few minutes ago he texted me this, and so please just put out a prayer for Don, if and hopefully his family get through this tragedy. So I just thought I'd share that.
Absolutely. Don, our hearts break for you and your family. We'll keep you and your family in our thoughts and prayers for peace and comfort, whatever that may look like in the coming days. That's one of those things where you just you don't even have the words to put into something like this. But just Don, just know that we're thinking about you. We're praying for you, and surely hope that you find some sort of peace and comfort here in the coming days. And so folks, if you are listening, we would ask you to do the same. Send some thoughts and prayers out for the Bearden family in this challenging time there for them. I believe it to be done, and so I think a lot of folks do as well. It's terribly sorry to hear that, Don. Bruce, Brian, what do you say we go ahead and get this thing wrapped up tonight? Are there anything you guys want to talk about, Bruce? Any what's new or what's on the docket this coming week for Bruce's Bees?
Well, I've got to get up there and check and see if the queens were released and accepted, and gonna probably, I have some Formic Pro. Greg, I got you sent me some, and I've got some more somewhere. I've got to find it. I'm gonna put Formic Pro, I think, on my colonies that I did not treat. Because I thought I was going to harvest. I don't know that I'm going to still harvest the fall flow. It hasn't been that great, and I think the stores are about where they need to be. So I'm going to hope if I can find the other. I don't have enough, but I know I've got some stash somewhere enough. I should be able to treat everything that needs to be treated, and then I'm going to just be checking on them this coming week. I've got a video coming out of the day that Eric and I spent. I did put a video out for those who have followed my channel. You know that back in the spring, we had a queen that got marked more than she needed to be, and
Big red,
basically
maybe.
the marker ran down her wings, and she's a neon red. I got my marker from Greg at Nature's Image Farm up there from you, Greg, and it's almost a neon red, like almost a pink color. It's really a bright red, and so she just stands out, man. She glows. And I hadn't checked on her in a while, and she's done great this year. And a lot of people told me she would be superseded or she wouldn't make it. And sure enough, we got in there, and I did a video. Eric and I, a Spirited Toad, and I went through, and we found her. It was a really fun little video. It's a short video we did. I just posted it. I think it was Sunday afternoon. Wasn't too much editing involved with it, and we had a really good time. Eric and I did Friday, but also on Friday, we spent most of the day up in Ozark. Going through those colonies. I think we went through all the colonies, and mainly preparing. The whole idea was to get it ready for the 7 queens that I got that came from you, Greg. And so, we did that. But we went through every colony. We checked some for mites. We did some different things. And so a video on that day up in Ozark, getting those colonies prepped, and also in this video will be the introduction of your queens. And so I'm working on that video right now. So it should be coming out in the next couple of days. And then, of course, I'll be going up probably Friday or Saturday and checking to see if those queens have been released and accepted. And we're just going to be checking weight and just kind of checking the health of the colonies and just seeing what we end up with going into winter and coming out of winter. But I think I asked Eric several times, what do you think about the bees? And he was pretty pleased. He thought they were doing well. And it was really a great time. I just really appreciate him. I didn't realize that Eric had so much experience with bees, but man, he was just a tremendous help. Just went through, he recognized everything, and we just worked really well as a team, and we got in a groove and got some stuff done, a lot of stuff done on Friday. So it was a lot of fun. So that's kind of what we've done the last few days and what's coming up over the next few days. But we're kind of in a little bit of we're getting to the point where we can kind of maybe coast and glide a little bit and not have to work quite as hard with inspections and things. But we've got them, as they say, almost kind of put to bed, but it's never completely put to bed here in the South. But I do have a little work to do yet, and then of course start getting ready for next year.
Awesome. Brian, what about you? What's coming up for Castle Hives the next week?
Yep. So within the next week, all of my colonies will, I know I'm going to have to pull some long days just between work and everything to get caught up, but I almost feel like I'm behind, like I said, but I'm going to get feed on all of them. So, and in that feed, of course, I'm going to do the 2-to-1 with my Hive Alive in it. But then I'm going to drop strips. And I also am going to try something that not many people have tried, and I'm not going to get into it here, but everybody will see a video. So if you want to know what I'm talking about, you're going to have to suffer through one of my videos. But, it's just, I'm going to try within the next week just to get caught up so that they all have feed. They all are getting a treatment and just kind of get things squared away. I think within the next week also I'll be done extracting all of my honey. I got, I think, 2 boxes still sitting next to my uncapping tank that I ran out of daylight the other day and didn't feel like working in the dark. So just get all that kind of cleaned up and kind of wrapping up the season. So I'm hoping in the next week I can get all that done. So if any of that I have to put off another week, it'll probably be those boxes just sitting there. I mean, they're not going to go anywhere. So, but the importance right now, like I think we've touched on, is just getting the feed on them and making sure the mites are under control. So, but that'll be it for the next week.
Awesome. Next week is on whose channel, fellas? Brian, batter up. Next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern on the Castle Hives channel. Be sure to check out the Stream Team Beekeeping Chat there. Who knows what guest, who knows what we're going to be talking about, but one thing's for sure, we're going to have fun spending time with you. What we do here is not just about us. yeah, we've got to make a living. We have a supply shop here. There are things that we're going to want to talk about, things that we're going to want to share, try to share where we think these products can bring value because we use them and can speak to them. But truth be told, this opportunity here is for the community. And I think as we've seen a little bit here at the end of tonight's broadcast is community is important. It's not just about beekeeping. It's about being our brother's keeper. And I think what's special about communities like this is when your brother's in need, you step up. And so I could go on tonight and all the things that we've been into and all this and that. But tonight, I just want to leave the chat with that, today where we was trying to do what we do here. And I'm working on the computer, trying to get some advertising and some marketing things up. And I get a phone call. I'm trying not to get choked up about it, but I got a phone call from a lady who was looking for help to sell some beehives. Now, it was only a few months ago when her and her husband were reaching out looking for a queen, or they needed advice on how to get these bees out of a barrel. Her husband just passed away a month ago, and she's trying to figure out, what am I going to do with these colonies? Because we did this together. These colonies need a good home. And as I'm trying to sort through and help her, what can we do to help? What do you have? What's the, when we got off the phone, Jake is over here off to my right, and Jake's working on inseminating queens here on the stations and such. And it was an opportunity to remind Jake that no matter what kind of day that you think you are having, there is always somebody out there who is struggling way harder than you are, who's having a way rougher day, maybe even a worse day, if you could call it that. So I think we have to be careful. We have to give each other grace in a lot of situations where it's not just about beekeeping. It is about being our brother's keeper. So Brother Don Bearden, keep him and his family in your thoughts and prayers, folks. That I can't even imagine what that is like for them. But if you would, please say a prayer for Don Beard and their family to find some peace and comfort in the coming days and weeks as they deal with this tragic loss. Again, this is about community. It's not just about beekeeping. From all of us here at the Stream Team, we love you guys. We appreciate you. Thanks for spending some time with us live tonight on the Stream Team Beekeeping Chat. If you're listening back to the replay later or the podcast feed, we want to thank you for spending time with us. And as always, we want to remind you to be the lighthouse and be the change you want to see in this world. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.